Here we are now going to the abandoned golf village. Down an old dirt track is an abandoned golf village here above the mountains of Vigo. One person's dream that ended in many people's nightmare. I came here 15 years ago, and the properties I'm about to show you were laying almost intact. Now, the fullness of time have destroyed these properties, people stealing and removing what they can. Let me take you and show you round this deserted golf resort. Well, 15 years ago this was almost intact. Now it's just moss and ruin. Here there were supposed to be hundreds upon hundreds of houses built. Here they've assembled gates to stop people coming in. Skeletons of beautiful properties that were supposed to be built. Eucalyptus trees have grown where houses were supposed to be built. A beautiful part of the mountains, but a sad dream for many. A beautiful golf course, and there below the golf course you can see the skeleton remains of the golf village, way into the mountains. Here we're now going down towards Vigo's premier golf club and the abandoned village. This is a beautiful golf course overlooking the city of Vigo. But the area needs help, needs investment. You get a premier golf course like this and a sad, abandoned village behind. It really is a beautiful place to come and play golf. There below, the mussel beds and the vast city of Vigo. And yet, dereliction that needs investment. Needs someone to come along and pick this village up and put it into a situation of the person's dream from the 80s and 90s. Well, here we are off into the village, the abandoned golf village of Vigo. The biggest criminal of all with reference to property investment is the banks. The banks are what causes the problem. People get together or individually and have a dream, and then suddenly the bank supports them in every possible way. And then when things get a little bit tough, the banks walk, repossess your property, and you become the criminal. But the trouble is, it's not you as the criminal, it's the bank as the criminal. After all, if the bank didn't support you in the beginning, the development wouldn't have taken place. And the first sign of problems, the banks are out, you've lost your money, and the dream is gone. But then it comes down to the governments. The governments, again, are the criminals. Why? One simple reason why is because they let the banks hold on to these properties all across the world, almost forever. If they released it with, let's say, 3 years, a law is passed for all banks. All people who repossess properties have to release those properties to be sold on the market at a market price, a real market price, within 3 years, by auction. Of course, the banks would look at things in the beginning in a different way. They simply don't. That's why beautiful properties like this remain. And who is the owner? Believe it or not, the banks. Well, here we are now, well into this village. The actual road system of this village goes on for many kilometers through this mountain. Here you see the dereliction. Here you see part finished. It is unfair, unjust, and should be unlawful for the people who are living here to be able not to do something about it. The law should protect them. The bank should have this property taken off them and simply put into an investment company that has a time limit in which to complete the investment. If they don't, again, it gets removed from them for somebody else. 15 years ago, this looked pretty good. But now look, there is literally trees growing through the houses, graffiti on the walls, and the banks talk about ridiculous amounts of money. Machinery simply laying in amongst the forest. The banks have an obligation. The governments have an obligation not to allow this to happen. No bank, under any circumstances, should withhold a property for more than 3 years if it's been repossessed or taken from a company without it being sold once more by auction to the highest bidder. Unless, of course, they have a legal problem which should be resolved by the courts. The courts resolve the legal problem. The property gets sold. Here, a single property, almost intact. The investor made an investment because of what he was told by the developers. Because at the time, the developers were being supported by the banks. Then, of course, they suddenly weren't any longer. This is extremely sad for the person that owns this property. To see, for millennium, the properties next to theirs just standing derelict. The graffiti artists are moved in. And then people say, well, unfortunately they made a mistake. They may have made a mistake, but their mistake was based on what they were being told and what they believed. The governments should support them by the fact that the governments should make the banks sell this estate. And when it's sold, it also has a clause within the estate sale which clearly states that if they don't complete the development or areas of development within a certain amount of years, then the development is resold by auction on the market for someone else to try and resolve the problem. It cannot be humanly right for the governments to sit back and ignore what would become a very simple law in countries that call themselves, should I say, proper democracies. The maximum time a bank can hold any property, land or anything is 3 years. They cannot transfer it into a company in which they have set up to hold properties. No. It must be sold on the open market by auction. The clauses will be set by law as to how the sale is to progress, and the laws surrounding the purchaser. E.g., it's very simple for the purchaser to be told, don't buy it unless you can consider that you will finish it in a certain period of time. And if you don't, then it will be taken from you, even if you have no borrowings on it. Your agreement in the beginning was to buy the property and complete it in 3 or 5 years. Of course, it would limit the amount of buyers, but it would limit the amount of buyers to those that consider they could do the job. If they can't, the next company will take on the property. People cannot be left in limbo for years not knowing whether the abandonment around their properties is going to improve or get worse. You imagine investing hundreds of thousands of pounds into your property dream and this becoming the reality. I am sorry, but it's against human principles, dignity, and definitely against what we call democracy. Democracy has a vote. I'm sure if there was a vote, it would be in favour of this beautiful estate being sold by auction to a buyer that will complete this development. These poor people, they may live in a beautiful area, but in the height of abandonment. Not even the pavements outside their houses are hardly finished. This is a crime against humanity, a crime against the area, but worst of all, a crime against those that have made their home here, believing the dream in which they were told. The passage of time has taken over these properties. Yet, where are the banks? In this village, there are people living, a few people, but almost everything else is abandoned. Completely abandoned. This is a crime committed simply by the banks. One side, there's almost inhabitable properties. On the other, it's purely abandonment. This abandoned village is now a dream only for the graffiti artists, the vandals and the thieves. This is a crime against humanity. As I walk through the eucalyptus forest next to this village on my way back to my car, I understand that this is happening all over the world. You buy a nice house and the next one remains derelict next to you. There should be laws against this. There should be laws against one person having a flat and the flat above them derelict, water pouring through their roof. If we're supposed to be living in what we call civilized society, how can this be allowed as civilized behavior? It simply isn't. This, of course, is one village, one housing estate in hundreds of thousands around the world, and tens of millions of properties taken by the banks, and the banks refuse to sell them on the grounds that they don't want to lose too much money. Sorry, Mr. Bank, Mr. Loan Shark, you lent the money in the first instance, and laws should be put against you for loaning money and then holding on when you've taken the property away. Those laws should be in any civilized society anywhere in the world to prevent this happening next door to your dream home. It's crime against humanity and simply can be changed by laws in your parliament. The voice will soon become the voice of those that are the people. We can't go on with what you are allowing to happen. You want to be a good government? Prove to us that you are a good government. This simple one law should now be in all democracies. Any bank, anyone lending money against property and then repossessing, the repossessor can only hold the property for 3 years, and laws govern the resale. The abandoned golf village above Vigo, northern Spain.